Hey, welcome. We're back.
Thank you.
We're the Young Jurks. My name is Mike Crawford. I am the host. We got some new folks in. I want to say in studio, but it's not really a studio. It's a temporary studio, but we'll call it here at Dig Boston offices. That's where we're at, which is awesome. I love being at Dig Boston, publication I actually write for. We got a lot going on. Free cannabis is the topic of the day. We're going to definitely get into that. I know people want to talk about that. They've been sending us messages. Even the mayor of Cambridge, who was just here, was noting he thinks it's pretty funny. But there's a lot going on. We have our friend Donna Hackett and her son Robert are here as well. We're going to give her a special award at the end of the show. We're going to give away some free cannabis on the show. Lots going on. So if you want to talk about that or anything else, call in 502-501-3477. But right now we have a guest sitting right next to me. You probably see already. And we're excited to have her. Crazy story. Crazy thing happened on Facebook with a public official, Steve Murphy, who I believe is the Suffolk Register of Courts. He's
Register of Deeds.
Yeah, Register of Deeds. Thank you. He's got a job within Suffolk County. He used to be a city councilor. Something wrong with Mike Murph? No? Something in the background? All right. There's someone doing the two things behind my ear or something? What's going on? Okay. So crazy thing happened on Facebook with this elected official, Steve Murphy, with yourself. I haven't actually looked at it all, but then there was a news story that came out, a column from columnist Yvonne Abraham with the Boston Globe. And I love the title of this, because it kind of gives you an idea of exactly what happened here. It's the story is called Steve Murphy. Oh no, on Steve Murphy, privilege and pie holes. Because right. Steve Murphy on Facebook got mad at you for some reason and told you to shut your pie hole.
A group of women.
A group of women. Okay.
Too. Yep.
What happened? How did this happen? What happened? Tell us what happened.
I woke up the morning after the Alabama abortion ban got passed, distraught, disheartened, scared, angry, like a lot of women, most women I know.
And even some men like me.
Exactly.
I mean, it's
exactly.
pretty frightening
It's
to think that we're doing
frightening.
this to women in 2019.
Incredibly frightening. And there was an article about the 25 white male senators that had passed the abortion ban and voted for it, and I posted it on Facebook and said, we need to elect more women. And I've been in politics for many, many years. I'm the former executive director of Emerge, Massachusetts.
Oh, really?
See,
I knew that you had some political background.
So I've been recruiting and
Tell
training.
people what Emerge is, because I know what it is.
Absolutely. So Emerge is an organization that recruits and trains Democratic women to run for office. We have a program here in Massachusetts, and then there's a national organization, Emerge America, that is expanding into new states. They're in 22-ish states and counting. And so after I was executive director for 3 years here in Massachusetts, I went on to be vice president nationally. So
you're a big deal. You are a big deal. I'm going to say that right now, because I know Emerge, and I know it from the candidates we had on our show,
right,
who went through the program, and some of them won. Like, can you tell some of the people who have gone through the program and won?
Yeah.
Recently?
So the Boston City Council is
Stacked
incredibly changed since I was started as executive director. So Michelle Wu is one of our graduates, Anissa Sabi-George, Andrea Campbell. I mean, really, most of those women.
I think we need more women like that.
Exactly.
I love all three of them.
Exactly.
I'm like, yeah,
exactly.
Michelle Wu, yeah.
And I live in Somerville, and I am represented on all levels by not just women, but Emerge women. So my local ward are not alderman anymore, city councilor Katiana Ballantyne, Stephanie Hirsch, city councilor at large, Ayanna Presley, my congresswoman.
That's what I say. Ayanna went through Emerge, right?
Exactly. Christine Barber, my state representative.
I mean, Ayanna's pretty much the biggest political figure in Massachusetts.
So
right
Ayanna
now
was on our founding board. She didn't go through the full program. Fun fact, Ayanna actually hired me as executive director. She was on the board when I was interviewing for the job. So she was in the room when I was interviewing.
Hired you.
She helped hire me.
Wow,
so I've been following Ayanna around.
Did she intimidate you? Like, be honest.
It was a little intimidating because I really looked up to her as a role model, and she just sitting across from me. There was a room full of board members, and she was right across from me, and I just thought, I'm so inspired by you, and you're interviewing me to be an executive director, and I'm terrified. So I've been kind of following her around, and I'm so excited to be in her district now.
I love her. I'll say, because when I say intimidated, I was a little. I interviewed her.
Yeah.
And during that, like right before she won, actually the primary, and I was a little bit intimidated, but it was easy because she is really nice and like she's awesome. I love her.
And she's so authentic, know.
Yes.
And we talk a lot in the work that I've done training women to run for office about how important authenticity is. To do what you say and say what you do, and that's a core part of the training that we did at Emerge when I was there.
So awesome! You've done this amazing work. You're definitely someone who's had an effect in the political process, especially for women. And I, one of the things I'm so happy about with this show is like when we started, we'd have campaigns come on, they never won. And then all of a sudden we started winning. And Mike Conley was the first one.
Yeah.
He's a guy, but
Yeah.
we won one.
But an ally.
But an
in the
ally
movement.
and right
Absolutely.
on the issues and a fighter. But then we started having campaigns come in that were winning like regularly. And a lot of them have been recently women and people of color.
Absolutely.
And I am like, I love it. Like when they win, especially like Ayanna and Nika and, I know Tito Jackson didn't win, but it's just so, we really need more of it. We do. Like the old school white guy from Southie. Like really, they're not the only people who are qualified to lead around here. That's the way I feel. I feel like it's just been, and I feel like it's been to our detriment that we've only had one class of people that were like the rulers, and we need more voices. And on so many issues, they're not there. And recently we're seeing change, and I'm really happy about that. So this came up on you were posting about basically what's been happening and that you want to see more of it on your Facebook, right?
Right, absolutely. I mean, I believe
once we burger, really.
We need our elected officials to represent their constituents and represent the demographics of their communities, and they don't. And so this isn't rocket science to get more, not just women elected, but folks of color, immigrants, LGBTQA folks, millennials. I mean, diversity of all shapes and sizes and colors is incredibly important. And so I posted on Facebook about the abortion ban. We need to elect more women because I do believe once we have more women in office, these types of bans will stop. We'll start to see more policies that positively affect women and families all over, not just the Commonwealth, but across the country. And Steve Murphy, who is a former Facebook friend of mine, decided to engage in the conversation that was happening on my Facebook unprovoked. We very rarely, if any time, have ever interacted on Facebook together. He friend requested me, I'm sure, a ton of time ago when I was executive director of Emerge Massachusetts. A lot of elected officials did. Frankly, I have a lot of elected officials and Globe reporters apparently who are Facebook friends with me, and that's okay. And so he came on and attacked the idea that we elect more women, called it divisive identity politics, said, this is what's ruining our effing country, called us strident bullies that need to shut our pie holes, which was one of my fan favorite lines, and called us progressive extremists. And I responded and I said, I'm shocked and astonished at your response. First of all, you're a county-wide elected official. And if you can't have the compassion for your constituents and decorum to communicate effectively, what are you doing?
Right.
And he not only used profanity with friends of mine, but with constituents of his. There are a lot of women who were engaging with him and really trying to get him to back off, who live in Suffolk County. And so it was really shocking to see him engage and continuously attack and use profanity and tell us to shut our pie holes and silence women throughout the conversation on Facebook.
Now, Yvonne Abraham wrote a great breakdown of some of the things he said. That's where I read about it. And she quoted him directly, and it is shocking. You know what's even more shocking? Because when Ayanna Pressley came on the show, I was friendly with Michael Capuano because he was one of the first people in the state to support my cause, which is the medical cannabis issue. And I'd become friends with him from back then. He had come on the show right before Ayanna came on the show. But I think the big thing that swung me over to Ayanna, and she repeated it several times on the show, is about the district. Right. This was like one of the most diverse districts, not just, locally, but in the state and probably in the nation, And here we are representing always by white men, like older white men too.
Right.
So why aren't we looking at different voices, people of color, women of color? It just makes sense. And in this district, the Suffolk County district, I have to think it's pretty diverse. Is that true?
It's incredibly diverse. One of the most in the state, if not the most diverse.
So he's really not a good representative for the people,
right.
I'm guessing.
Right. I don't think he is.
And it's almost like a no-show job from what some people say. I don't know if that's true, but that's what a lot of people say. But what's weird about it is he doesn't have another election for like 5 years.
Yeah, it's a 6-year term. So he's in there till 2024.
And he had been he just got into this, was he reelected? He must have been reelected, or was it an open seat? I don't even know.
It was an open seat.
was
He
an
had
open seat,
a woman, Katie Ford,
And she
challenging
did pretty
him,
good.
an Emerge woman.
And she almost beat him.
She was an incredible candidate, and I hope she runs again. If she's listening, you should run again, Katie. And here's what happened. Their election was on the other side of the ballot.
Oh, that's right.
And so if you look at the number of blanks
A lot of blanks.
and you look at what she lost by, there's an interesting correlation.
Oh.
So tough race. And think about what happened in Suffolk County last time. We had Ayanna Pressley getting elected, Rachel Rollins. I mean, women and folks of color up and down the ballot. And then Steve Murphy got elected to Register of Deeds.
And I'm wondering if you got any of the feedback that I got, because as soon as I started posting about that you were coming on the show, and I posted a few things about what was, even the Globe article, just about some of the things that were going on with Steve Murphy, I started getting people messaging me about past incidents with Steve Murphy.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them I feel free to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you saw this, but his name's E-Rock. He's a friend of the show. I love him, Ernesto, with the Foundation Movement. His father's a past city councilor. His brother's a past city councilor. His other brother's running for city council. They're Arroyos. They're hooked in.
Right.
And E-Rock sent, I don't know if he posted, I think he posted on his Facebook page. I think it's actually a public thing now. But he basically said, like, this was my incident with Steve Murphy, and it was troubling, and it goes way back. And it's just shocking to say this guy has been doing this for a while and gotten away with it, and no one's called him out until now, it seems like. It took a woman to sink him out, because I think this is a big problem for him. Let's do you want to comment on that? Did you get any kind of...
I did get women contacting me directly, both calling me and Facebook messaging me and telling me their stories as well. I didn't ask them if I could share them on the air today, but there are quite a few women who did come forward and tell me similar stories of how Steve Murphy treated them.
And E-Rock also went back to the history of Steve Murphy, noting that he was like a surrogate or protege of Dapper O'Neill, who, if you look back on Dapper, there's a lot of dirt on Dapper. Dapper had done some very racist things, some very, I think, even homophobic. Dapper O'Neill was a very controversial figure that I wouldn't want to be attached to.
I don't know a lot of that history.
Yeah, so that was what E-Rock was telling me. And I think E-Rock knows. His father is actually an elected official right now. He's the register of... no, actually, I'm not even sure. It's something to do with the courts.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
I should look up the title. But his father's an elected official right now, Felix Arroyo. But speaking of which, so all of this happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a story in the Globe.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big brouhaha. Most of the people on the Facebook page are, I'm guessing, all on your side. Is there anyone supporting Steve Murphy on that thread when he goes nuts on you, number one?
No, definitely. I mean, they're my Facebook friends. I mean, they definitely weren't supportive of him.
And a lot of them are
spinning out of control.
Democrats. And he's a Democrat.
Absolutely. He is a Democrat.
And he is in office. So you'd think he might get some love.
He did not. I mean,
But the action was
spinning
just
out of
so
control.
vile that people were like, no.
And just so shocking.
Right.
I mean, it just came out of nowhere,
Yeah,
just
exactly.
unprovoked,
Yeah.
decided to kind of spin out of control.
And so the Globe runs a story. And what did he do? Did he apologize? I saw his lame apology on his Facebook page. We'll talk about that. But what did he do? Did he reach out to you?
No.
Or any of you?
No.
What was his, like, how did he, what did
He
he
unfriended me, deleted the screenshot, deleted his comments. I got screenshots of all of them, which are public on my Facebook for anyone who would like to see them, and posted the pseudo apology.
But didn't apologize directly. Didn't call
No.
you or email or send a
In
message.
fact, he posted the pseudo apology after Yvonne Abraham reached out to him for a comment, and she's the one who told me about his pseudo apology, because I wasn't aware of it.
He didn't send it to you.
He didn't send it to me.
We're clear who's the apology was for. That it was
Right.
for the Boston Globe. It wasn't actually for you. It was for the Boston
Exactly.
Globe.
So I was alerted to it, and I did respond to it, and I asked him directly why he decided to silence the women who engaged with him and disagreed with him, including myself, instead of engaging in a healthy debate and dialogue, which is what he called for in his pseudo apology. And he didn't respond to that.
He hasn't responded.
No.
He hasn't reached out even since then.
No.
I mean, sometimes I think with Facebook, because I hate it, like, and I've said things that are
Totally.
inappropriate. We all get in flame wars sometimes, especially loudmouths like me. Donna's laughing over there. She's had it with me too. But I don't know. I think there's, especially if you're elected official, it's a different, it's a different bar. But at a certain point, why not just reach out and say, hey, you know what, Judy? I was out of control.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I thought about this. I couldn't sleep for the last 2 nights.
Yeah.
You made me confront something. Thank you. Like, what is so hard about that? Like, I've had those conversations with people and then realized, you know what? You were a thorn in my butt, but you were right and you helped me.
Yeah. I really think he took this personally because in his pseudo apology, he said that I posted on Facebook that we should elect more women to get all the white men out of office, which I never said. And so
But he is a white man.
He's a white man, but I think he took this very personally.
Victimhood.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, well, we should elect more women, so all the white men have to leave office. That's not what I said. I think that we need policies that reflect our communities. And frankly, white men are running the city on all levels, politically, in our civic organizations and our companies. This isn't just
our boards.
Exactly. It's not just about politics. And so I care about that. I care about representation, and I care about fair policies for women and girls and families and, folks that aren't represented well right now.
How awful of you.
Awful.
Like, seriously.
I know. Terrible person.
What? And especially after this abortion issue. Okay, so let's get to, did he block you too?
He unfriended me.
Okay.
He didn't block me because I could see his pseudo apology.
Good. Oh, at least you got to see his pseudo apology.
I did. It was
And you know what
entertaining.
I really think is lame on his thing? Like, he doesn't think he has any white privilege. He doesn't think he has any privilege.
No privilege.
He grew up in the public housing. So therefore, the rest of his
Right.
life, he gets a pass on privilege. And it's
Right.
like, you know what, dude? I grew up with a
Right.
single mom.
Right.
I grew up poor as hell.
Right.
You bet your ass I have white male
Right.
privilege every single day. I have a business right now. There's certain customers that treat me different because I am a white male. If I was a black male going in there, they'd be, I don't know about you coming to my house. That is reality. And that's not my fault. That's not Steve Murphy's fault. But you should acknowledge it. It's reality. And when Steve Murphy goes around with his chip on his shoulder, I don't have any white male privilege. I grew up poor. So did I. And I have white male privilege.
Right.
It's disgusting. It's
What's
just someone
it
that is in an office like this, and you're a Democrat.
Doesn't
how can you be
understand
missing this now?
White man, he doesn't get it. And what's ironic, Mike, about this is, I posted about the Alabama abortion ban. A few of my friends started to engage in how, afraid and disheartened and angry they were. And he barges into this online conversation, mostly with women, and made it about him.
Right.
That's
a privilege.
Exact
That is
sheer
privilege.
definition of white male privilege.
And then you think you're right.
Right.
And then you think that they like in the apology, it seemed like he was trying to shift some of the blame to
Right.
not himself. And it's just like that. There's a
No,
lot of
he
privilege.
took no responsibility.
And what
He
about
said,
the privilege of being in office? What about the privilege
Right.
of being a city councilor who now gets
Right.
elected to a 6-year term, can pull this shit on
Right.
Facebook? And hey, it's okay because he
With a
hasn't. He hasn't.
six-figure job, by the
Yeah,
way.
he's getting over 100,000.
$138,000 a year.
Easy
register
job.
of deeds.
I'm sure he does not working as hard as I do walking dogs.
Well, no, he's on Facebook all day because
right.
he posted what he did on Facebook on my Facebook and his apology during working hours. So the Suffolk County taxpayers
and
are
the
paying for him
privilege to
engage on
not
Facebook.
have to even go to re-election for 5 more years after you
more
pull
years.
this crap on Facebook.
Exactly. He can just lay low for the next 5 years and hope voters forget.
Any
We won't let him forget.
Yeah. Any advice you want to give him at this point, or are you just done with him? Honestly,
I would love to have a conversation with him. I would be open to a conversation about what happened, about privilege, about patriarchy. I mean, I am open to that conversation.
privately or publicly or both?
Both.
Either or.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, you know what? After this, I'm gonna send this recording over to him and say, "Come on, let's have this conversation. Let's see if he does it."
All right.
I'm a white male. Maybe he'll feel more comfortable with me being the guy in the middle. I'm Irish Catholic like he is. I think is he Irish Catholic? I don't even know.
I don't know what his religious background.
He'll probably
He is
listen.
Irish.
Yeah, he'll probably listen to what I said though and say, "I ain't going on with that guy."
He might come on for the free cannabis. We don't know.
Maybe, yeah, because we are giving away free cannabis. Maybe Mr. Murphy likes that, Steve Murphy. I don't know. there's so much we could get into on this with him, but I think we've dealt with most of it here. I mean, it's shocking. I can't believe that a public official would.
I
would
know. I
go
almost
there.
wanted to rewrite his apology to show elected officials how to apologize in an authentic way, because he took no responsibility for it. He said, if I was going to do it again, I wouldn't have engaged. Instead of, I'm sorry for using profanity and attacking women on Facebook. Like, there's very different ways.
Especially on the day that he
apologize.
attacked you too.
Right.
It's like, you really, dude? You're gonna pick?
Right.
Did you attack Christians on Christmas? I mean, like,
This
you
is
know
the
what I mean?
day.
It's like,
Yeah.
What are you doing, dude?
Women are literally fighting for their lives, like all over the country, and this is what you're gonna pick a fight about identity politics.
That's
By the way,
unbelievable.
Irishmen in Boston, I created and identity politics. So
Right? I
I'm not
mean,
really
that's
sure
how
what he's
they're in
complaining
charge.
about. Yeah,
That's how
exactly.
we're,
Yeah.
unbelievable. You also, like, currently, you worked for Emerge. What are you doing now? Tell us about what you're doing
Yeah. I have my own consulting business. I do a mix of management, leadership development consulting, and some capacity building. So I'm really passionate about making the world a better place and helping nonprofits, mostly in political organizations, do that. So I have a really interesting client, the EOS Foundation. They're working on the Women's Power Gap Initiative, and it's really looking at who holds the power in Boston and in Massachusetts right now. So they've done some really interesting research on, who are in these seats of power. So looking at education, for instance, they ranked all of the schools and universities in Massachusetts from 1 to 93 in terms of gender and leadership, which is a really interesting study. But also looking at the education cabinet statewide. So Charlie Baker walks into a room to talk about education policy, and it's 5 men. 5 men
I believe it.
in education.
Yeah, right.
Where
I know.
75% of our educators are
I know.
women.
You know why I know this? Because I went to Bridgewater State College. I was an education major.
Oh,
and my
great.
girlfriend was too at the time. And,
Right.
their early education, it's 90% women. I mean,
Right. Right.
it's so many women, and you're 5 men. Are you kidding me?
Right. The educators are women, but
Yeah.
the folks leading and making education policy are men. Look at our publicly funded state university system, right? 2008, 10 years ago, 5 of the 15 state university presidents were women. 5. We have 1 now.
Yeah.
So
We're supposed to be liberal and progressive,
right.
and so ahead
we're,
of the
and
curve.
we're backsliding. We have to have this conversation about leadership in this state. We're looking right now at business advocacy organizations, things like the Mass Business Roundtable, Mass High Tech Council. Think about the people who can pick up the phone and call Beacon Hill and get their phone call answered. That's also overwhelmingly led
White
by
males.
white men, right? We're looking at public boards and commissions, overwhelmingly being led by white men. So it's not just about
No
politics.
privilege, though.
R-
There's no privilege.
No privilege. Some of them may have, lived in public housing. Who knows? Yeah. So this is an incredibly important conversation, and so I'm honored and humbled to be working with clients that are working on these incredibly important issues.
You're awesome. I want to thank Steve Murphy for one thing.
What's that?
That I got to meet you.
Oh, thanks, Mike.
You're a great guest, and I would like to have you come back on.
I'd
like,
love to.
talk politics. 'Cause
Sure, let's do it. Let's
It seems
jam.
like you know a lot of.
It's a passion. I'm
what's
also
going
the co-chair of the Mass Now PAC, so I have my hands in lots of different things in Massachusetts, but it's definitely a passion of mine.
Excellent. Is there anything else you want to kind of get out there, whether it's about Steve Murphy or anything else?
No, I don't think so. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Awesome. I enjoyed it too, and I definitely want to thank Steve Murphy for that. Right? Hey, he at least there was one good thing that came out of it.
One good thing that came out of it. It was a good conversation, and thank
That's
you
true.
to Yvonne Abraham for writing the piece in the Globe. I think that helped build some momentum around
Oh,
the conversation
and
as well.
I want to thank him for that too.
Yeah.
Because that was a great column by Yvonne Abraham. She's written some good ones recently.
She has. Her women's prayer, I think. I don't know if you've read that.
Yes,
It's
I
keeping me
did.
sane these days. It's keeping me sane. Yeah.
And I think it's she's doing good work. Like, this is, thank God she's there writing those.
Yeah, exactly.
We
need more voices like hers.
And our phone number right now is 502-501-3477 if anyone wants to leave a comment. Looks like we got a lot of people listening. Just seeing if there's any comments. Calvin, good friend of the show, he's co-host of Activist Hour with Monica Cannon Grant. He says, I love Judy P. Neufeld. Do you know Calvin well?
I do. I love him too.
We do too. And Calvin also writes, Dapper was a known and public segregationist.
Wow.
And yes, let's have less white men in office. I'm for that. That's what Calvin said. We love Calvin. Sandy Hogan writes, a mature man or a diplomatic rep would have spoken up as an ally, not perpetuated
Absolutely.
a boy versus girl spat.
That's true.
Excellent. So, we got other people too. I tell Bert Biederman, do you know? I don't know. Judy Neufeld is a rock star. You're getting raised. People are loving you.
Oh, well, that's nice. Thanks, fan club.
Yeah. Don't you like coming on here? Like,
What was that?
I said, don't you like coming
I
here?
do.
People,
Let's
people
do
make
this more.
make you feel
I
good.
know. It's
We
a
will.
little
We definitely will. I want to
universe.
thank you for coming in,
Thank
Judy.
you so much.
And we're just about to wrap it up, but you mentioned free cannabis. You heard about
I
that
did.
story?
I've been
What do you think?
following, of course, been hearing the
Yeah.
story all weekend.
What do you think about it?
What do I think about free cannabis?
Yeah.
Who doesn't like free cannabis?
Yeah, there we go. Boston Calling and the Boston Police and the Boston Herald.
Well, yes. Well, I'm, you know how I feel about it.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad.
You're welcome.
I'm glad because I need it sometimes too. I need to hear from it.
There
I'm
you
getting
go.
a lot of pressure, but no, I think we have a lot of support on this. I want to thank you again for coming in. We are about to wrap it up, but we are going to talk about free cannabis a little bit. We'll take some phone calls if you got them, 502-501-3477. And we also have another friend here, Donna Hackett, who we're going to have you guys switch seats, and we're going to have
Sure.
Donna Hackett sit down, and we're going to give Donna Hackett an award, and we're going to give her some free cannabis. So sit down, Donna. Here we go. Donna Hackett's coming in. Thank you again, Judy.
Thank you.
And we hope you stick around, too, because we want to take a picture with you and all that. And, first of all, Donna, welcome back. I'll give you a hug.
No, no shit.
Give you a
It's
hug.
been
Oh.
far too
Oh.
long.
Mwah. And, all right. So, you couldn't make our awards event.
No, I haven't been well.
I know you haven't been well. So now we're giving it to you.
Ooh, it's beautiful. Thank you.
You deserve it.
Thank you.
You've been fighting for this for how long? Cannabis? Medical? Since when did
well-
you guys get rated?
In 2007, I got stage 3 Lyme disease and stage 3 breast cancer, and started growing cannabis in a medical marijuana state, figuring it was no problem, to get licensed with 2 qualifying conditions. And then we started growing, and I tried to get doctors to sign my card. And then 2008, the summer, my daughter was a senior in high school. We got raided.
By the police.
It was a full raid too. You see 10 cars. I actually had to turn around and chase them.
The
Because
cops.
my daughter was on the phone screaming that, it was bad. It was really bad. I was bald. I was
What's stage
battling
3
cancer. Stage 3 is aggressive. It's very aggressive.
That's the worst. That's what people
Well,
know,
stage
right?
4, you're terminal,
Yeah.
like
it's
usually.
before terminal. It's just it's
Yes.
the stage right before terminal.
Yeah, and I was already really a mess from the Lyme disease. I was dragging half my body, and my whole entire immune was already weakened from that. So then I had to go through the strongest form of chemo and radiation.
While
and
facing all this with
while
your family.
facing the charges with my
Your son.
son, who had to leave college, and
He was
my
going
husband
for you.
was arrested, and he came home and put the Mylar back up and said, basically, screw them. Nobody tells me my wife can't have cannabis.
That was your husband?
Yeah, and he wasn't even a smoker then. He was when we were young, and
He's a good guy, huh?
yeah. I mean, he grew up in Norwood. I grew up in Sharon. So, we're local suburb kids. Our families all came from Boston, We really didn't think that
And this happened in
this
Rhode
was
Island.
possible. We didn't think that a police force had so little time on their hand that they would come charging up a 90-foot private driveway on a woman who is pretty much dying
Fighting
of
for your
yeah
fighting for your little life.
yeah
And your son is
so-
growing your little cannabis
right,
because you
right.
had cancer. And it became a big deal. And you were living in Rhode Island at the time, and you still are.
Yeah.
And since then, the laws have changed. You've been a big part of that. You've come so far, haven't you?
Well, we fought for the right to have whichever doctor. Being from Massachusetts, it made more sense for me to battle such an aggressive cancer in Boston. I go to Beth Israel. I had the top breast cancer surgeon in the world. So I should have had the right to have doctors from Boston sign my card. and here I am getting treatment in Boston, but trying to get Rhode Island doctors to sign. It was just a shit
wasn't
show.
working.
Yeah. And so I had to do something, and in the state at the time had a decent program, and they listened and they said, wow, this is wrong. You should be able to go to Connecticut. Connecticut has excellent medical care. You should, if you're closer to the Connecticut border, you should be able to go to Connecticut. If you're closer to Boston, you should be able to go to Boston. And still to this day, that right is being constantly almost overturned in the Rhode Island legislature. Every year I have to tell my story. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was there until 11:30. I was the last person to testify.
Why do they make patients wait
and
so
I
long?
said to them, I am worth the wait. And the head of the judiciary kidding me. He laughed and he goes, I can tell.
I bet.
And I said, this is absolutely ridiculous. And furthermore, the thing that really troubles me and what's going on in Rhode Island is we put the cart before the horse. We're trying to mimic Mass in some way with, we have a regulatory committee that gives licenses, but he doesn't know what the hell he's giving licenses for. And everything he knows about cannabis, he has Googled. I'm like, I always telling people, if you don't know something about cannabis, Google it. But when that's your only source, get out of my face.
Right.
Like, you should have
Especially when you're
experts.
running everything.
There are so many people in Rhode Island that have been growing and helping patients for 12 years. That's how long. And for them to not tap into that resource and have us be a part of the formation of legalization, it's ridiculous. They just keep trying to monopolize it. In fact, that's the poster I drew. I drew the money bags from Monopoly running away because
The money.
that's Rhode Island. They just want to have 3 big guys slice it up into a 9-piece pie, and that's it. No one else is any part of it whatsoever. They want to get rid of growing.
That's the new thing.
Rhode Islanders are rebels. You're not going to tell them they can't have their special tomato plants anymore. No way.
Yeah, no way. And you're not going to let them. I know.
Oh
you're
God, no! I'm ready to die for the plant. Like at this point, no way.
Yeah.
As far as we've come, for people to still look and judge us about it, this is a plant that makes me not take benzos, makes me not take painkillers. I am so disgusted at Dr. Scott, who is the head of the Board of Health in Rhode Island, disgusted beyond belief. For her to come out and say there's not enough evidence to prove that cannabis could replace opioids, what the hell rock are you living under?
She has to talk to CCRN,
who
was here last week.
Gina won't let you listen to the facts? I'm sorry. I don't understand what's going on.
We were doing a survey in Mass that shows 60% are off of opiates because of that. This award is it's awarded to Donna Hackett. It's the KOP Warrior Award 2019.
KOP was very special man. He fought very hard for the plant, so it's quite an honor to have it because he really was a trailblazer.
And you are too. You guys were friends, and you're both trailblazers.
Yeah, I like to see a lot more positive things happening in the community. People like myself that have a lot to add. I don't know where I fit in anymore because it's I'm sorry, I'm not a sellout.
Right.
I will never put profits before a dying person's needs. You can't speak out of both sides of your mouth, If you're making money on this plant, give it back to the people.
That's right. Speaking of which, we got some free cannabis for you.
Yay!
There you go. It's in a Skittles box.
Oh, that's cute. Cute.
But we are giving away free cannabis this weekend. We're going to Boston Calling tomorrow.
I saw
We're on
that.
TV last night, and I've been delivered to patients too. We're having to do this program because people can't afford their medicine still in Massachusetts. Where
It's
it's legal.
ridiculous.
What do you think about that?
I think it's disgusting. I really do. I personally, it's funny. The last time I did one of the conventions, I haven't done one in a while, but the Rhode Island one, somebody asked me, what do you think about the dispensaries and this and that? I was like, well, they asked it because they knew in advance that I've never been in one except for to volunteer and to work on behalf of breast cancer because I have no need to go as a caregiver, a patient. I grow my son grows my medicine. He's responsible for my care with cannabis. And so I've never had to go into these, overpriced, I would have a heart attack. You cannot expect people to get, even people that are trying to replace alcohol and have or anxiety medications and to have a normal everyday release. They can't afford a 30-day release on what they're charging.
Oh, no, they can't. And you know what? Because I was starting to use those I was going to them, and I make pretty good money, right? But I'm
Yeah.
a patient, and there's still a limit. Even when I'm thinking I'm doing okay, pretty, and I know that a lot of people aren't doing as well as me. But there came a point where I started realizing that I was chasing bargains.
Uh-huh.
There would be specials I would drive. I'm spending all my time driving around the goddamn state looking for the best deal. Like, that's not a way to treat patients.
The problem isn't even just localized to the Boston area or to the Northeast. I mean, in California and in other states that have legalization, the black market is thriving.
It's killing
like it never has before because of the fact that nobody wants to go into overpriced shops and get sometimes subpar medicine.
Yeah.
Like, we're
Mids.
not letting the people that have dedicated themselves, like my son, to understanding the cannabis plant and how to get specific strains to perform at their best. We're not encouraging that by having these excessively large grows that just pump out, mediocre.
Mids.
Like, hey, man, mids are so last decade. Come on.
Yeah.
Like, if it isn't top shelf, don't even show it to me.
Right.
If I can't see those crystals popping from the table, I don't even want to look at it.
Right.
That's a headache. And
I hope the free cannabis I give you is good enough for you. If it's not, we'll give it.
It
to
better
another
be.
patient. Yeah. I want to thank you for coming in, Donna.
No, it's my pleasure. What you're doing with Boston, it's you have to. I mean, we have the WHO saying don't smoke cannabis in front of me.
Oh my
Hello,
God.
you
They
wouldn't
said that in front of
exist.
you?
No, they said this
I
on
know.
air.
Roger
that
adultery, yeah.
You would not exist if people couldn't sit back with a joint and put a headset on and listen to your album.
I know,
Who
right?
the hell are you to sit there and tell them not to smoke cannabis? Are you kidding me?
I know, right?
You owe your mansion to them.
What's funny is this Boston Calling thing that we've been talking about all weekend. They don't allow smoking cigarettes. They don't allow cannabis. They take people's lighters. They search people in the way. How rock and roll!
I remember.
I'm not saying that I'm telling everyone they should smoke cigarettes or smoke weed, but what happened to rock and roll?
Right?
Like what these kids are all like, we like it like this. I'm just like,
Mikey,
what?
you don't remember the Cape Cod Civic Center there? It was your life in your hands when you went in there.
I
Like
know.
you came out
It was
stoked
a little
with
dangerous.
beer. Like,
It was a little dangerous. That was the
it was
excitement
an
of rock and
open
roll.
floor plan. You fought for your stage space.
Rock and roll is like the Boston Calling is like a mall now to me.
Yeah,
it's like
yeah, it is.
Someone offered me a free weekend pass because of all this brouhaha.
Well,
I was thinking about going in, and then when I realized that they weren't even going to they were going to not let me bring any cannabis in, even if I wasn't going to use it. It's like, so wait, you need me to leave it at home and do this round commute? No way, no way. I'm not going. And it's like this is what they're doing to medical patients, is saying, you know what, you don't have the option to go in because you can't bring a cannabis with you. Who's going to go to that?
I have smoked cannabis at every concert I've ever gone to, from the Kinks in the Boston Gardens, down the Cape, the Eagles. I've smoked cannabis at all of them. I mean, the experience wouldn't have been the same if I couldn't.
Now you know that some people are going to sneak it in.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
if really at this point, if I wanted to go with the pass, I would hide something up my wherever, you know what I mean, tape it to
I
my
think
leg, but put in my shoe. I mean, is that what we always did as kids? But this seems ridiculous. I don't know.
I think they should be encouraging people to be respectful of each other's space regardless.
Right.
Like I remember
Why
one
not
time
have a
smoking
separate
with
space?
you on the corner after a radio show, and as soon as you saw children, you said something. I didn't know what you said, but it was code word for kids coming by, put the J's down.
Yeah.
And that's just
I don't want to blow it in any
that's
kid's
being
face.
aware of your environment, and I think that we should encourage that no matter what. I don't want someone's drunken breath
Yeah.
blaring into my
And-
face and having
yeah.
some belligerent drunk coming at me because
Exactly.
I might have to knock someone out.
All right. This is what bugged me about maybe the WCVB story. A lot of it didn't come through. They didn't, they play their little soundbite. They make it look the way they want to. But it's only common sense that people are going to smoke at these events no matter what.
Right.
No matter how much you search them, there's going to be someone that does. Why not just have a segregated section? Say, hey, this is the far end over here. That they have a big setup over there. It would be so easy to set up a smoking tent.
Right.
Set up a segregated section for people who are 21 plus who want to smoke cigarettes, cannabis, medical patients. But no, instead, you can't come, basically, is what it is.
Robbie and I were
We
just
don't want
saying
you.
we were going to try to have a drink at the casino, but it's not open yet. And you can tell we're from Rhode Island. We didn't know, right? So,
Next
but we
month.
pulled up and we looked at it, and I said to him, I said, if they're smart, they're going to have a air filtrated room where you can go in and hookah or purchase some, high grade cannabis and smoke, because it's a $250 charge to your hotel room if you smoke cannabis in it. So have a smoking room. It's legal in this state. If you're going to have a bar in your casino or your resort or your lounge, have an equal area for people who want to enjoy cannabis.
And I'd say housing too.
Oh yeah.
Otherwise people are going to do it illegally in their housing when they, and risk their leases, or they're going to be smoking on the sidewalk or in the cars.
And the whole trend is to avoid arrests and avoid incarcerations, because we're trying to get less people incarcerated. So this entire system seems like it's just destined to make more arrests.
It's crazy. We're out of time.
Hey.
I want to thank you for coming in. I love to see you.
It was awesome. I missed it.
Oh, thank you, Donna, and thank you for Rob for coming along with you, your son.
We'll have fun.
Definitely. And again, we're giving away free cannabis. If you want to know more about it, check us out.
Get your free cannabis.
Yeah, subscribe on our Substack. It's midnightmass.substack.com. Follow us on our Twitter @the Young Jurks. We'll be back next Saturday with State Senator Sal D. Domenico. If you have any questions for him, anything you want answered, hit us up. If you want some free cannabis, hit us up. If you want to know what we're doing all the time, follow us. We're on the Anchor app. We're on iTunes. Subscribe to one of those podcast apps. And definitely make sure you're on our Substack, midnightmass.substack.com, and @the Young Jurks on Twitter and on Facebook. I think that's it. I think we covered everything.
That's a mouthful.
I want to thank my friend who hooked us up with a lot of free cannabis, and some other friends too. Thank you so much. We will definitely help a lot of good people, a lot of good patients. We'll be back next week. This is Mike Crawford checking out. I want to thank Cambridge Mayor Mark McGovern for coming in earlier. I want to thank Judy Neufeld for coming on. She's awesome. I love her. And I want to thank Donna Hackett. She's also awesome. I also love her.
Love you too, Mikey.
And Murphy behind the board, Disrupt Boston. Thank you. We'll see you next week. Mike Crawford checking out, Young Jurks. See you next week with the State Senator.